was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord.
Hello and welcome to our review of Zack Snyder's Justice League. With me, as always, is Leonard Cohen.
Pleasure to be back.
I'm Nolan Vinoy, I'm Nolan Vinoy, and we have a movie to discuss.
I'm Brian. I'm Brian, everybody.
Do you remember your name?
I don't remember anything from the before times.
It really does feel like a before and after.
Before Zack Snyder's Justice League, we just watched the whole thing
in one sitting.
Yeah. It's release day.
Good Lord. All I can really say right now is just, what did we just witness?
We watched...
We didn't watch something.
Yeah.
We witnessed something.
We witnessed an event, a series of events, over the course of 4 hours and 2 minutes.
Right.
And boy, are those 2 minutes a doozy, I'd say.
I would say so, too. Those 2 minutes are a doozy.
And then the most stressful rendition of Hallelujah I've ever heard.
Extremely stressful.
And then we sat down to record a podcast.
Well, let's just start off by saying I loved this.
This slaps.
I loved this.
This slapped so hard.
It was so
holy shit, dude! Like, what the fuck?
I'm sort of sitting here and reconciling with what we just saw, and having just the history over the last 8 years since when Man of Steel came out. Like, if this movie could not have been released in this package when Justice League was coming out.
No.
But if this story and this quality had come out in 2017, oh my God.
The entire landscape would be different.
The entire landscape of Warner Brothers films in general will be different.
I think that, look, and I should give some context. Neither of us were, release the Snyder Cut people.
Right. I was a release the Snyder Cut person in the way of that. I think it was, I wanted Zack to be able to realize his vision and at least see a unified filmmaker's version of Justice League. But it wasn't necessarily because I loved Zack Snyder's vision of what the DC universe is. Yeah.
Once we knew that it existed, I was like, oh yeah, definitely give him the chance to, do what did get stolen from him in a really shitty way.
Right.
Give him the chance to do that, and it'll be interesting as just as a thing to study, to be like, oh, okay, this is what the original intention was, and this is how it got changed, and I thought that would be interesting.
Right.
Are we continue the Snyderverse people?
I am
now.
I 100%.
I'm not sure if okay. Let's talk about this movie first.
Okay, yeah, let's just we'll get into where would this go?
This is obviously if you came here because you weren't sure if you should watch it and you don't want spoilers,
go away.
It is physically impossible for me to. We just watched
this movie.
Did you understand that it was 4 hours and 2 minutes long?
Right. It is a yes or a no. Do I want to watch this movie? There's no discussion.
It will be impossible for me to filter out.
Right. And there's no way to convince you to watch a 4 hour and 2 minute movie. So
you already know in your heart if you want to watch it.
So we're not going to even bother to try to review this movie without spoilers.
I would say if you're like me and you really hated BVS and you thought Man of Steel was pretty boring, and you're like, he doesn't really understand these characters, I don't really like this universe, give this a chance.
Yeah.
I will say that. Give this a chance, take a look at it. It's, if you have HBO Max already, don't get HBO Max.
Right.
Get a free trial.
Yeah, get the free trial.
Get a free
7
trial,
days.
watch it, get off.
7 days, which is just a slightly less amount of time than the movie is.
Yeah, so you start it right when you hit the button, get it off right.
You only have to pay for a month.
Yeah. So, okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. Where do we start?
I don't think chronologically.
I don't think we
need to start at the beginning. I think the first thing that I want to say is that the reason that I really hate Batman v Superman and vaguely dislike Man of Steel is that I felt that in those films the characters of Batman and Superman pretty specifically,
Right.
and Luthor also, but mainly Batman and Superman, were in a very high profile way misunderstood. I felt that Superman didn't seem to like humanity very much.
Right.
Or anything very much.
He didn't seem to like anything very much.
And Batman was a psychopath.
Truly, is a murderer from the beginning.
Used so many different kinds of guns to kill so many different kinds of people.
We even said this. It was whatever kind of gun that Zack Snyder could give Batman, he would give it to him.
And I would say Superman gets resolved in this.
I would agree.
And I would also say that Batman pretty much does.
Yeah.
Batman feels a lot more like Batman in this than he did in BVS.
For sure.
He still uses literally every kind of gun you could possibly imagine,
including the parademon guns.
He shoots people in the head, blows people's brains out. Look, they're parademons. I get it.
Right.
I think that there's one shot in this that really epitomizes what Zack Snyder's Batman is, or there's one moment that does, where there's a bit where Batman has crashed a plane, and a bunch of parademons are about to swarm him. So he shuts off all the lights and it's like a multi-level plane. He shuts off all the lights in the plane, and the parademons like open it up, and it's pure darkness inside. And you think like, oh, they think they're the hunters, but now Batman's the hunter. And what happens is floodlights turn on, and Batman has a machine gun, and he just levels.
He's just leveling all of them with the Batmobile. He just revved up the Batmobile.
And that's the misunderstanding, I feel, is that Zack Snyder thinks that what Batman does in the dark is get a big old gun and turn the lights
mow
on
everybody
and
down.
Shoot everybody to death.
I think what you said about because I would say I have the same issues with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman is that both of them, my problems with them stem from, well, it just doesn't seem to really understand who Superman is, doesn't seem to really understand who Batman is. And I really think that hindsight, I mean, obviously hindsight is 20/20, but having seen this, I don't know if it's actually a misunderstanding of the character's problem as much. Like, I think it was more so that he was telling a narrative of these characters are becoming what the comic book, I think standard versions of.
I think that's what really worked for me about this, but I think it is also clear that that's not entirely true, because Batman's still doing a lot of murder left and right post the point where he's learned. Right. And Superman, people talk about Superman in this as if he was the Superman
never saw
we
him
remember.
That way.
Like, there's a moment where Flash is like, he was my hero, and I'm like, why?
Right, which is like, I think I said during the movie, I was like, that would have been, I mean, it works in the moment, but it would have worked 13,000 times better if you'd had 2 or 3 solo Superman
or
movies.
even just some instances of Superman rescuing people where you go, oh yeah, he's making like human connections with them and stuff,
right?
Which they do with Wonder Woman in a pretty cool way in this.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the bomb sequence, the Wonder Woman bomb sequence?
Yeah, we can talk about the bomb sequence. There's a couple things to talk about in the bomb sequence.
It's super different from the Joss Whedon version in some interesting ways.
Is it a bank? It's a bank robbery in the Joss Whedon version.
I think there's still a bomb in the Joss Whedon version, but I think it is generally some kind of heist that's happening. It's not as Doom culty, I think.
Yeah, the Doom culty aspect is kind of fun, and it almost makes me wonder. It was like, man, if this was like 2004, this is the climax of the movie.
There were a lot of moments in this where I had the thought, like, when we were just looking at the credits list of this, I was like, if you showed this list of credits to someone in like 2003,
the question, everybody,
their heads would explode. Like, you could not.
Got them all?
But how many of them are just like extras? It's like, no, not really any of them.
Yeah, I mean, so with that sequence, you get a great moment of Wonder Woman connecting with a little girl. Yeah,
I'm gonna say is Donna Troy. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
She's like, "Can I be like you someday?" And Wonder Woman's like,
"Hey, there are clear setups for other movies in this movie that." Probably won't happen.
I do like, though, that the little girl is like, "Can I be like you someday?" And Wonder Woman is like, "You can be whatever you want to be." It's like,
with the subtext of, not really?
No,
not really?
You can kill people if you want.
In spirit.
Definitely.
You can be like me in spirit.
But you can't fly, I would say.
I she disintegrates a man.
Yeah, wait, okay, I just want to go through the steps of this a little bit because
okay,
so she comes in, she lasso of truths a guy, which is pretty fun. She blocks a ton of bullets and it looks fucking sick. I really like it. I think there are moments here where definitely slow motion is overused, which is not the most innovative criticism of Zack Snyder.
I was going to say,
movies.
it's the one that everybody says. It's to be expected, so just understand that probably throughout most of the movie, we can say on multiple occasions, slow motion is a little unnecessary here.
But I think the use of slow motion in spots here is really effective, like showing what...
He does use it, and there he overuses it, but there are times when he does use it that is fantastic.
Yeah, I would say this is true for Wonder Woman, and it's true for Flash specifically, where both of them we get a lot of slow motion bullet time. Like, we see Wonder Woman looking at the bullets as they're coming in and, like, gauging what she's going to do, blocking this one, moving this guy out of the way in slow motion. But we also see it in real time, where they're, like, moving and moving and moving and doing this incredible stuff at incredible speed. And I think that's what makes that really work for me, is that we're seeing how insanely fast they are, and then we're seeing the mechanics of it.
Right. Yeah. And you're seeing people's reactions to what just happened.
So she blocks every single bullet that these guys are firing. She beats the crap out of them. She kills most of them, if not all of them, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there's one big blood splatter on the wall.
And then it's just this one very fancy man with a top hat, or a bowler hat, who for some reason...
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't a top hat, Brian.
Yeah, it was a bowler hat. I'm sorry.
He didn't have a driver's license.
In honor of... In this man's memory... I will endeavor to get the name of his hat right. I do apologize for that. So he's basically this very, like, proper, very kind of measured person who's, like, setting up this bomb. And it's because he is a terrorist who wants everyone to go back to the Stone Age.
Right. He wanted to set Europe back 1,000 years.
When I would feel that they wouldn't make his special hats or his clothes.
Right.
He seems like he kind of likes being...
And in this movie, he would have been right... he'd be right at home if he wore his medieval chainmail knight suit.
Most people in this movie are from 1000 BC.
Right, yes.
But so he primes a bomb, and Wonder Woman beats everybody up, and she throws the bomb into the air, and it explodes, and it's great, and everything's fine. And then the bowler hat man levels his gun at the crowd.
Which is an interesting thing here. Like, I feel like setting off a bomb, it's murder, obviously, but it's not like looking people in the eyes and shooting. This guy goes from bomb to I'm gonna kill all of you with my eyes set on you, like, real fast.
Well, also, if the plan is because they're like, we'll be making our demands shortly to the police,
right?
But it's just a tactic to buy time for them to detonate the bomb,
right?
Why do they need time? Why did they set a timer? You can just detonate a bomb.
Exactly.
At any time, really.
That is an interesting little plot hole.
They set like a 15-minute timer or whatever.
Because Chris Terrio, the screenwriter, said so. That's why, Brian. That's why it happened.
So Wonder Woman flies back down. The guy fires a million bullets out of this machine gun, and she blocks every single one. She's moving everyone out of the way. It's amazing.
Great Wonder Woman action.
So we have established that she is very fast.
Right.
So then she looks at him and watches as he removes the clip from his gun.
Lets him reload.
Picks up another clip, puts it in the gun, and she's watching him do all of this from like 3 feet away. He raises the gun, and then she slams her bracelets together and fucking incinerates him.
But here's the fun thing. Well, one, she could have just run over there and taken the clip.
In seconds, she could have done that. Like 6 times over, she could have done that.
Instead, she hits her gauntlets together.
Yeah.
And the man ceases to exist. Now, but this opens up a question because his hat survives.
Yes, his hat floats down through the sky like a beautiful butterfly and lands atop a police car where a police officer looks over at it, and it kind of feels like he's gonna pick up the hat and wear it and become the next man.
If this cult was an established entity, it could be a setup for a sequel.
He will be next Hat Man.
Right. Whenever
Hat
you put
Man Begins or Returns.
So this was Hat Man Begins.
Yeah.
And then the next one is Hat Man Returns.
Right.
Whoever wears the hat has the knowledge.
Yes, of wanting to not have to wear hats anymore.
Right.
And go back to the Stone Age.
My question about the incineration is: is the hat now? I have 3 questions actually. Now, is the hat made of a material that can survive the incineration? Mm-hmm. Did she only incinerate forehead down?
Right. So is there is there a scalp inside of the hat still?
Right. Or did she actively decide to keep the hat but disintegrate everything else?
I'm going to go with option C.
Also, another thing.
Yeah.
When she does it and like the windows of this building like blow out and
the walls are destroyed.
The walls are gone.
It's as if the bomb went off.
Look, the girls in the room survived, but none of them can hear anymore. None of them.
If Wonder Woman had slammed the bracelets in their direction, gone, all of them, ashes.
Now, did I mention that Brian and I still like this movie?
Yeah. We also like this sequence.
Yeah, this sequence good, but we're just tearing it apart for some reason. Yeah. The windows, they blow out and stuff. It just looks like the bomb went off.
Yeah, it's violently explosive. Like when it happened, we were like, "Oh my god!" Like, why?
I was expecting the guy to get like knocked back against the window or like to fly through the window. Nope, just destroyed the room. That's it. The foundations are gone.
It's funny to me in these movies because it happens in BVS too. When some guy's got a gun to Lois, and Superman, instead of like heat visioning the gun, using super speed to grab it. Using super speed to grab her,
he has
using
so many
freeze
options.
breath to blow him, which we've seen that he has.
Right.
Does
he use it well in this movie.
He chooses to charge into him and punch him through like 7 walls.
Yeah, Zack Snyder's version of Superman action, at least pre-Justice League, was
in Justice League too.
A little bit, but like he does a lot more.
Excessive force.
Yeah, he does. He always. Yeah. He's got a big moment of excessive force in this movie. But honestly, this moment of excessive force, I'm so down for. I was loving it. I was loving this excessive force.
So am I to an extent.
There was one part about it that I didn't like. I don't know why we're speaking in code about this.
We're not talking about spoilers.
He cuts off Steppenwolf's ear,
which is great. Also, him freeze breathing the axe is awesome.
So good.
Also interesting. Because we've seen 2 attempts at axe slamming. One by Mr. Thulis.
Mr. David Thulis.
David Thulis as Ares just fucking cuts Darkseid in half.
Bodies Darkseid.
He slashes into him and just wrecks him.
I remember when they were filming this, I knew that David Thulis was going to be in the movie. And I'm just like... we were watching the opening credits for this and I saw his name and I was like, oh, cool, Ares is going to be in this. And... I thought it was just going to be like a little flashback scene with Diana or something like that. No, he takes his fucking Ares God of War axe and just bodies the fuck out of Darkseid with it.
Yeah, and that's during the flashback where we're seeing the Age of Heroes.
Right, this is like I think it was, Zeus, 5,000 years?
Something before? Like that, yeah. Where like Zeus and Ares and all the Amazons and all of the Atlanteans and all the humans and a Green Lantern who gets to do a little bit more in this.
Which I would love to see a movie about that.
About the Age of Heroes in general?
Yeah, I would.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think it's. I don't know. I think it was very cool. I think
maybe
their
it would
battle
be better
against
as just
Darkseid.
a sequence.
I think maybe because we've seen the coolest that it is.
Right.
I think
we've seen the highlights of it. For sure.
And then anyway, during the climax, Superman flies in as Steppenwolf is trying to axe Cyborg, and it just bink off of his armor, and then Superman takes the axe, freeze breaths it, punches it, and it shatters, and that's awesome.
Man, it is awesome.
It's so good, dude. Then he cuts Steppenwolf's ear off or horn off.
Is it an ear or is it a horn?
Does he have
like
ears?
to think of it as an ear because I think it's hilarious.
I mean, it's a horn, but does he have ears?
Can he hear? Also,
when Steppenwolf's head gets cut off, his eyes are still on, like blue, until his other horn gets cut off. And then they go dark. So is his brain contained in his 2 horns?
Right, and there's just nothing going on in the middle.
Nothing going on in the middle. Head empty. No Thulises.
No Thulises. Mother box on the brain.
Yeah. So
that sounded disgusting.
Yeah. So that's all good with me. I'm even good with Superman cutting his horn off. It's a little much, but I think it's cool.
But you know what? Steppenwolf has been an asshole.
He's been an asshole, and he's also like, he's a dark side level. He's not actually dark side level, but he's a high level entity.
Right.
So it's, if you can wound him,
yeah, it's
you should
deal.
do it.
Yeah.
But then Superman just starts beating him on the ground,
just punching
for a while.
See, that's the part I was honestly down with. That it was the ear thing that I wasn't down with.
Really, I was reversed because we cut away to other stuff, and then we cut back, and he's still punching this guy, and I started to be like, dude.
It's the thing. My thought was just like, well, I guess how else are you gonna keep him down? And
I had the thought of, is this when Superman starts to turn, right? Because we know that in the quote unquote future, he's evil,
right?
And we even see a flash.
We see a flash of
a potential maybe thing that happens where he kind of is sitting with a dead body, probably Lois. I would say. I'd
almost say 100%.
Yeah, and then
Lois,
and then Darkseid comes over and like puts a hand on his shoulder, and he like goes bad.
Right.
And I was interested because the way that he's punching this guy over and over again, I feel like there's no way that Zack Snyder intended this to look heroic, right?
Maybe, yeah.
There's not even heroic music behind it. He's just beating him.
Right. I would agree with you about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
But okay, but can we do like a character roundup?
Yeah.
Like just talk about each individual. That might be the best way to do this. Well, let's talk about Ryan Choi real quick.
Yeah, talking about Ryan Choi.
That's a fun.
That's
fun I had no idea about that.
And a cool. I asked. I was like, do you think it'll actually be like a setup for the Atom movie that'll never happen?
And then it was.
Yeah,
now that he ends up, because he starts out as a scientist who's friends with Silas Stone.
Right.
And then he, in the end, becomes the head of the nanotechnology division,
which is very cool.
Which becomes the Atom in the comics,
and he has access to the Kryptonian ship that's in Metropolis.
And
honestly, I'm a little surprised they haven't moved it out of the center of Metropolis.
Yeah, it has been responsible for a lot of horrible events,
and it's been
right
there
in the center of the city.
I guess this movie takes place in 2016, but it's still been there for 3 years.
It would be like
that case.
It would be like if the thing that did 9/11 was like a rechargeable machine, and you just kept it right in like Madison Square Garden.
Just ready for it to do another 9/11.
Yeah, it's a weird choice, I would say. But okay, so Ryan Choi, cool. I thought he was fun in this.
Yeah,
he's likable enough. He's got kind of funny moments. I like the actor.
Who do you feel like is the core of the movie?
Is it? Cyborg?
I feel like it's Cyborg.
I think it's Cyborg. Yeah.
Because I feel like in terms of an emotional arc, like the climax really like circles around a decision for him to make.
Yeah, and it's, the voiceover at the end is his father. The sacrifice is, well, there's a couple of sacrifices, but the one who dies is his father.
Right.
I think Cyborg is fantastic in this.
I think so too. I think he has an amazingly realized and like a really emotionally powerful character arc.
Yeah. There's one thing I felt was missing, but I want to kind of go through. I think that the beats of his story are great. I think that his introduction, the kind of montage of him winning the game and being revealed to have used his incredible like hacking skills, and which aren't usually something that character has.
I
thought
smart. That was kind of cool that he was already like genius level intellect.
Yeah, he's already a really smart kid. I think that's smart. To change his friend's grades because she had been I think she had been like evicted. She had lost her house. She was and she wasn't being helped by the school, so she was failing her classes, and he did something about it.
Which is a great way to start Victor Stone off on this level of immediately human, immediately
very
heroic
Cyborg.
In a different way.
Yeah, it's very Cyborg. And we're also seeing, the present with him looking out the window in his like cyborg form and watching some kids play football. And we're seeing all this, and we're seeing, the accident that happens with his mom in the car.
Zack Snyder, say what you will about him.
I will.
Which I will as well. But the man can put together an origin montage really well.
Yeah.
Watching this made me think of the Watchmen Dr. Manhattan sequence from the 2009 movie.
Yeah.
And that is like kind of far and above the coolest montage for an origin. But I feel like this is kind of the same idea, and it accomplishes it really, really well.
Yeah. And it's displaying, you know, we see the empty seat at the football game. We see them talking in the car. We see the dad's reaction to his accident. We see
booyah though.
That's what's missing.
Yeah.
And I'm
Is that actually what you mean?
I'm
like,
sort
that's
of
what's
joking
missing?
about this, but I'm also serious. Is that I think there's two missing moments in this movie. I think, and they're the same moment. It's a setup and a payoff. I think that after he did this amazing play in the game, and everybody's cheering, and he's doing you know, putting his arms up and stuff. We should have seen him mouthing "booyah," and then
hear him say it,
when he realizes his character arc, and he says, "I'm not broken," to the holographic images of like his family that the mother boxes are trying to like trick him with.
Yeah.
When he says, "I'm not broken," and he separates the mother boxes, and they successfully separate the boxes, then he should have gone "booyah."
Yeah, I think that would have been cool.
And then Flash should have been like, like in the back, you know.
Let's stay on Cyborg. I was gonna go to Flash, but let's stay on Cyborg.
I think there is a little more to say about Cyborg. I think, and it's obvious just because of the amount of even just screen time he has in this movie.
Right.
But so much better than the Justice League we got.
Yeah. Well, you know, he's very much. I feel like he's very much on the periphery of the original theatrical.
He's kind of barely in it.
He's not really in it, and he does get a booyah. We'll say that he gets a booyah. But that's about all he gets, though.
Yeah.
This, like, we get to see him. We see him pre-accident. We see him what his normal life, what his like core spine of a character, that version of himself. We see, and then we see the journey from struggling with not even really believing he is human or the same person again.
Yeah.
And see him basically learn and begin to know that he is still human, and like we don't get any of that.
And even just, I mean, and there's so many great visual, like, markers for that. Like, there's the fact that, you know, when he's in his like internal kind of head space,
he still looks like himself.
He still looks like human Victor until the end when he's being told by what's the unity is the three mother boxes combined.
Yeah.
When which is this, it's like the big evil magic thing. It's trying to like tell him, you know, oh, if don't destroy us, if you use us, then we can make you whole again. We can get rid of your cybernetic parts and we can bring back your family.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're saying this to him, we move like in a like dolly move from seeing him looking human past the holographic like family and then to the other side, and he looks like Cyborg.
Right.
And I think that's great that he's deciding he's not broken visually while they're telling him that he is.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's oh man.
It's great.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's a good movie.
It is, right? I'm not going to get home tonight and be like, "Oh shit, wait, I hate it," right? Cuz that kind of
I don't think so, because like I remember going out of like leaving Man of Steel, or not leaving Man of Steel, leaving Batman v Superman, and kind of being like Stockholm syndrome by it for a minute.
No, I had that with BVS for sure.
But as I was watching it, I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Like the Martha thing, like you feel like I felt it while I was watching it.
Batman's car crushing a truck, and yeah,
I was like, a lot of this isn't right.
Yeah,
I didn't have that.
No,
during this movie at all.
I mean, you even do with the Batman murders. You even do get the couching of their parademons,
right?
Whatever,
right?
You know, they're not alive. They even say in the movie they're breathing but not alive.
It was basically they're alive,
shadows.
but I think
Wonder Woman says a line that
it was like alive but removed of all life, or something.
Alive but soulless, something like that.
Yeah.
Also, does Flash?
They're basically robots.
Does Flash name her in this? Is he the first person to say Wonder Woman?
He might be. Yeah,
that's cool.
I think so.
I always
think of Wonder Woman 1984 as like canonically taking place before this, in which case it just...
I don't think Aquaman or Wonder Woman 1984 really makes sense.
They won't
in
work.
This timeline.
Yeah.
Aquaman sort of maybe
you could force it to.
If Amber Heard maybe gets hit really hard in the head and loses her English accent in between movies.
You could do that. And there was also some stuff with Arthur talking about his dad that would need to have some reshaping in order for it to
because his dad
function,
and him have a pretty good relationship in his movie.
And the mechanics, like the on the surface mechanics of mechanics of how do people communicate underwater.
Yeah, there is also a bit
but
there is also a bit where Batman and Wonder Woman are talking about Aquaman, and she's like, "Oh, he's a water breather, an Atlantean," and Batman goes, "Oh, well, he was breathing air when he talked to me," and then Wonder Woman goes, he must be a half-breed. And then we see literally
Mara and
4
Volko.
or 5 other Atlanteans just breathing air.
breathing air just fine. That's not a blood problem.
Mira and what the fuck is it? Volko.
Yeah.
Make air bubbles just so that they can fucking talk to each other.
Right, because the way that she's communicating when she's just underwater is basically like dolphin noises.
Yeah, it's dolphin squeaking.
Yeah.
There's even a bit where while she's fighting Steppenwolf, she makes an air bubble so that he can threaten her.
Which is fun. Also, she sucks the blood out of him.
She sucks the blood out of him. And it's awesome.
It's fucking awesome.
I guess we're talking about Mira now.
Let's get into the Aquaman side of things.
Yeah.
And then I want to get into Flash.
Look, Amber Heard is terrible, but
we all know this.
I think Mira in this is really cool. The English accent doesn't land for me.
Because I just know what Amber Heard sounds like, and I know it's not that.
I don't know. I think even if I didn't know, I would still be like, that's
not correct.
I don't love that. But everything she does in this movie is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Her 1v1ing Steppenwolf and actually holding her own pretty well, at least for a period of time, is really cool. Draining the blood, insane.
I would have never have thought. I mean, like, I guess if someone said, "Nolan, you have to make an R-rated Aquaman movie," I would have eventually figured out, "Oh, what if we could have him rip the blood out of somebody?"
Yeah.
But I never that was just the last thing I was expecting to see on screen.
Yeah. And this ended up being R-rated, right?
For sure. Oh yeah.
I think that moments like that make me go, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because those moments, I don't think any of the moments where characters are cursing and stuff is especially vital to the story.
No, I don't. I think it really is. It's kind of like just
somewhere in between.
It's making a show of look at us. This is mature.
Yeah, it's that the grim dark ooh, look at the blood. Aren't we mature?
But
it's really the opposite. But.
I feel like the levels of R-rated violence in this actually aren't. They're not performative or exploitative. They're really, I think at times it actually is it really services the story in a way because you see how ridiculously brutal Steppenwolf is.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And there's a moment where he slices someone in half.
Yeah,
and it's not even dwelled on, and it's just really easy for him to do. I think stuff like that is I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that Jesus Christ, Willem Dafoe with flowing gray locks.
How does it make you feel on the inside?
Most horrifying thing I have ever seen in my goddamn life.
I agree. And I adore Willem Dafoe, and I think his performance is perfectly fine.
It's fine.
The character doesn't have anything to do, and he's only there for probably a minute of screen time.
Yeah,
total.
He has 2 scenes, one where he speaks.
But when he opened up the bubble for the first time and you hear his voice for the first time, all I could think was, "Wake up, Spider-Man!
We're not so different, you and I."
Brian and I came
Aquaman.
Brian and I came up with so many fun little meta narratives for this movie while we were watching it.
The primary meta narrative over the course of this film, there's a moment where the Amazons, after the first mother box has been taken by Steppenwolf, the Amazons get out this ancient 5,000-year-old arrow that they talk to, and it has a name, and then they tell it to go and light the fires in the world of man. And I wanted so badly for the arrow to just be like, "You got it, boss." Then,
right. He's this fucking Brooklyn.
"Hey, you just point me and I'll head where you need."
But then he doesn't know that they're gonna light him on fire, so he's like, "Oh, this is hot. Oh,
and like Rizzo. They just they fire him from the island, and he's like, "Wah! I thought it was just on the other end of the island."
Oh man!
Can I check a bag?
Now, Ralph the Arrow is the real hero of this movie.
And whenever Wonder Woman's carrying him down to the ancient.
Oh, thank you very much for picking me up, man. Really
this looks like my summer home where I. Oh, there we go. And she puts him in the wall and he slides up.
Exactly where I thought I was gonna go.
It was good to be here. Thank you. Please don't forget me in the wall, please.
And you circle back around for me later, but don't rush. All right, it's fine. I'm good up here.
Oh fuck.
Has
to be a word. It does. The movie does like set up the general arc of Aquaman though.
Yeah,
from the movie.
does. It does.
Because he's got the scene where he's looking at the trident and he's like, they're like, your inheritance, and he's like, I don't like people.
Whether they breathe air or waters. So that's okay. So and I think Aquaman is a lot of fun in this. I think he
does the broy thing, but I'm willing to go along with the ride.
Yeah, I think here I appreciated it just because, it's 4 hours long, and I see I've heard some things online about people not liking Flash in this, and I get it. I can see it.
Yeah.
But I really liked him in this purely because we need some fun characters.
You need some levity.
We need some characters who are having a good time, which is what BVS was missing.
Yeah.
And Man of Steel was missing.
Yeah.
So I think having Aquaman in there, having Flash in there, brightens the others. And I think
remember
you need that.
when BVS came out, that was like the go-to criticism from just regular people was like, why is everybody so sad? Why is there no humor? And that is true. There needs to be some form of levity and light. I mean, these characters are not actually these grim, dark, brooding constantly.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and I think, and a lot of people take that criticism to mean people think that comic book characters have to be bright and cheery,
which is not true.
They can be mature, and yes, of course they can, but any movie, no matter how dark it is, any story,
levity.
No matter how dark it is, you need light to contrast that.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just sitting in gray sludge for 3 hours.
And I remember Comic-Con 2016 when the very first trailer for this came out. It was like a year and a half before the theatrical version came out.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder talked about it. He said there's gonna be humor in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's not what you saw. The humor that he was referring to was not what you saw in the theatrical version, but it was what you saw in this. And I think the injection of this feels like natural humor to this universe.
Yes, it does.
And I think it's really great. I don't necessarily love every single moment to moment with the Flash. I do think there's times when I can feel that he's making a joke rather than just being Barry Allen. But he is 100% necessary for this movie to work.
Yeah, and I laughed at a lot of stuff he did. I laughed a lot when he is in slow-mo time in his introduction.
Yeah.
When he rescues Iris from her car crashes into a truck that's barreling past a red light, and she flies into the air, and Flash is watching her fly up through the air, and he's having this moment of true love.
Right.
And then he looks slightly to the left of her and sees a hot dog cart that's been thrown in the air, and there's a single hot dog.
It's almost like a Simpsons joke.
It's a Simpsons joke. It feels kind of Deadpool-y a little bit too.
It feels Deadpool-y.
He just reaches up and takes the hot dog and puts it in his pocket and then rescues Iris.
What I actually think is my favorite part about that joke, because that's probably my favorite Flash joke.
Yeah, it's good.
I need to watch it. I need to watch the movie again at some point in the next 6 months.
I think it's my favorite Flash joke that wasn't also rolled into the Whedon cut.
Yes,
because I also like everyone disappearing on Gordon except Flash and being that's pretty rude, isn't it?
Right. What I took from it and why I think I liked that joke so much is it actually felt a little bit like self-awareness from Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Because of the way that the music, and he's done these musical cues for the other characters, which I don't really like all that much, with pop pop, basically like old 80s pop songs.
Yeah, needle drops of slow.
Needle drops, yeah.
There's one for Aquaman, there's one for Wonder Woman, there's one for Flash.
And it felt like he was aware to some extent that like, these are a little over dramatic and silly, and I'm going to make light of it for just a second in this moment.
Yeah, because it is that music that really makes it land.
Yeah,
but it's this like
100%.
Slow, beautiful like needle drop, and then it just pans
He just
over to a
pans
hot
over
dog,
and he's looking at
the
it
music
just,
keeps going.
Right, just looking at it a foot long.
Yeah, I think also Flash's resolution in this is one of the most beautiful superhero moments I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Are you talking about the time travel run or him
Yes.
just talking to his dad?
That
I guess
the
they're
time
tied together in a way. You know?
I mean, it's the time travel run.
Yeah.
The faster than death moment.
Mhm.
I would call that. It's gorgeous. It's so basically the League is too late. The unity has happened.
Yeah.
It's detonated and it's
killed everybody.
Incinerating the world. Everyone's dead. And Flash, who has been wounded, he's got a slice through his leg. He watches it happen, and then he's like, and we've established before that him running too fast can screw with time, so he has a rule never to do it.
Yeah.
And in this moment, he's like, okay, gotta break the rule.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Gotta break it right now. And he starts running, and he starts talking to his dad, who's in prison for he's been wrongly imprisoned for his the death of Flash's mother. And earlier on, he was talking to his dad in jail, and the father was like, "You have to give up like criminology. You're so smart and so great. You have to like move beyond this. To make your own future. Like be the best,
right.
You know." And then Flash is saying, whether I make it or not, I want you to know that I was one of the best. Even just the phrasing of one of the, like he's not even saying that he was the best.
Right.
And he's running back time, and every step he takes, the incineration of the planet winds back.
The matter of the Earth comes back together. With every step
and he keeps moving back, and the closer he gets to the unity, you see Superman come back into existence. You see his hand come back. You see Cyborg's kind of face reform.
It's really grotesque.
It
actually.
is, but it's grotesque, not in necessarily a gratuitous way.
Right. Yeah.
It's because it's winding back the tragedy and finding the light in it. I think that's what's important about it.
Right.
And the music is beautiful, and it's a perfect Flash moment.
Yeah.
Also,
he really, I mean, and it might just be a product of DC Comics in general, but man, are all of these guys really OP.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. That's what makes DC stuff amazing, and that's what separates this from Marvel stuff. Right. I feel is that there's an old thing that Marvel heroes are humans trying to reach for something greater, and DC characters are gods trying to be humans.
Right. It's
even the humans ones
trying to be heroes. God's trying to be, or heroes
God's trying to be human.
Yeah.
And every even the human character, even characters like Batman are
so much larger than
among
life.
people, and they are trying to be human. And I think when you really tap into that and you really accept that as being who these characters are, then you get something like the Flash outrunning the death of the planet and reversing it. And that's when you get the thing that makes DC stories, the Crisis on Infinite Earths or Infinite Crisis, or basically every Crisis a Flash does something like this. And you get Wonder Woman becoming a god, or you get, Superman pulling two planets apart. And, these are things in the comics. That's what makes these characters ideals, and that's what makes them earn being the best, earn being gods, earn being heroes. And that's what was missing, I think, from the other movies in this universe, and that's what's earned here.
So we've talked about Flash.
Yeah. Also, I like how his powers are visualized here, and I still like. There's other Flash moments that are great, but they're all from in the Whedon version too.
Right,
like Superman looking over and seeing Flash while he's in slow-mo time.
Man, that fight's good.
Yeah, and the bit where Flash immediately agrees to join the team, which I think works a lot better here because we faced more rejection.
Yeah.
By this point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So when Flash is immediately like, "Yep, I'm in."
Is first
then
time we
it's fun.
see him in the Whedon cut, is that... No, he goes to see his dad. That's the first time we see him in the Whedon cut.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
Because
Yeah.
I think then he goes
But
back
then like the
home.
second time, like he goes straight home,
Yeah.
and that's just like what
I think seeing him go for a job interview and then save Iris West is actually like really, really helpful.
Yeah. No,
in
I
terms
absolutely
of
think
getting
so.
a feel for his
I think it
character.
tells us a lot about who he is, what his status quo is. It's everybody gets kind of a one shot at the start of this,
Yeah.
which I think that
It's a great thought.
I think that makes the runtime worth it.
I will say I don't feel like Batman does.
No.
I feel maybe the weakest character link is the exploration of Batman in this movie.
And that's why I agree, and that's why I think that's because his character was so wrongly done in BVS. Is that
Right.
there are certain elements of him that have been established already that you can't
walk back.
Yeah, you can't walk back that he's been constantly breaking his one rule this entire time, and that he isn't the smartest guy in the room most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, if Batman doesn't have those two things,
Then he's just a dude.
he's just the Punisher.
He's just a rich guy.
But I do like in this that he is trying to be better.
I like that. I think you could have BVS the way he is in BVS. You could have that. You can have him the way he is in this if you had a movie or two of him being the Batman that we know him to be. So if you were to see him as he should be and then fall off the cliff with Batman v Superman and acting way out of line, and then you see him here trying to become better and be the man that he was, I think you'd be on a little bit of more solid ground. I mean, back in the day, people were always talking about Warner Brothers trying to catch up to Marvel.
Right.
And I feel like that is true to some extent. But watching this, I do feel like Zack did have a very clear vision of where Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, and then probably Justice League 2. It does this makes it feel a lot more coherent.
Yeah. This does validate at least the overarching vision that he was trying to get across.
Agree with the vision or not.
Right. And there are things that I think are still really weak about it, but I think that we all woefully underestimated where he was headed. Including especially Warner Brothers executives, because they knew more than we did.
Oh yeah, I mean they saw well. So one thing that I think is interesting about this movie is that it's not like this is not the version of the movie necessarily. It's probably very close, but it's not the version of the movie that Zack was going to try to release into theaters. No. This is like a hindsight is 2020 version of version of the movie. Like all of the stuff with the Joker was not in the original cut.
We'll talk about the Joker.
We'll get to that.
We'll talk about that sequence.
I have thoughts.
Me too.
I have complicated thoughts about it.
Yeah.
But he shot new stuff and he changed the story slightly, and it definitely feels that way. But Warner Brothers saw this story. Yeah. And I imagine that he didn't change the character arcs. No. Like the shifts that he probably made are very minor. And you can tell where most of the reshoots are. Like you can see them pretty clearly, and they're like whole separate scenes that aren't I honestly feel like all the stuff that was reshot like in 2020, like back this past summer, was at the end.
Yeah, it looks like it feels like it's really the last 2 minutes of the movie that are like the reshot stuff. There's bits and pieces that you can notice.
I noticed something very specific about I don't think Henry Cavill shot anything at all for the reshoots.
Really?
The shot where he lands in that very last scene in the nightmare future
sequence, right?
It looks, the way he tilts his head up and like smiles, it looks like when he drops in Africa to save Lois from. It looks like they just took that, rotoscoped him out and then put him into the.
I thought even it looked like when he comes down the shaft after they've captured Batman in the nightmare section. There's a shot
could have been that too,
where he like lands and then like stands up and kind of grins.
Right.
Yeah. But I think any of that.
I want to go back and look at that and to see if did they just pull that and stick it in there.
I also think it's an interesting choice that. Let's talk about Superman.
Yeah, let's get into it.
I think I love the black suit.
It looks great.
It's so fucking
cool. It
cool.
looks great. Also knowing that they didn't shoot anything with a black suit.
Yeah, it's all color suit because Warner Brothers didn't want. Right. They didn't want it to be the
Basically,
black suit.
Zack said that when they were filming the movie, he like sort of acquiesced and said, "Fine, we'll shoot with the color suit," with the complete intention to go in and post and turn it into the black suit for the final cut of the movie.
Yeah, which
I think is funny.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it looks awesome. I love the mirror, the rhyming sequence to Man of Steel's first flight when he takes off with the black suit for the first time. And there's even the difference in Man of Steel when he's got his fist to the ground and the pebbles, like the dust is kind of rising.
Yeah.
In this one, it's like rising and like swirling around his fist because he's Superman now. Yeah. You know, he's been through, and it's weakened by the fact that he hasn't had more than a movie and a half of being Superman.
Right.
But it's still there. And in the moment, I think you feel it. Where he's taking off and, in space and he does the Jesus pose and all that.
Do you think he feels more like Superman in this movie than he did in BVS and in Man of Steel?
Absolutely, yes.
Me too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. He feels like a person.
I think that's one thing about the thesis that I think that Joss Whedon set out to do was basically to make that trilogy be Kal-El becoming Superman when he's resurrected in Justice League.
Yeah.
And I think it actually you get the jovial Superman very well in that movie, mustache lip notwithstanding.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
And I think it actually is very visibly in this version of the movie as well.
Yeah,
he feels like Superman.
I think it's interesting because in this version, it's weird. It's incredibly different from the Whedon cut. But also, you can see
the bones of the story are the same.
They're the same. You can see how similar it is in that Whedon is he was basically just taking moments. He was basically taking the Zack Snyder film and doing it as if it was Whedon's voice.
Yeah,
right?
It's
Zack's
like he was story that he wrote in Whedon voice.
It's like he was taking someone else's ventriloquist dummy and speaking through it.
Yeah.
So the physical dummy is the same, but you've got a totally different voice coming through it.
Right.
So I think the moment, when Superman and Lois go back to the farm after he's been revived, I think it works a lot better here. There's not a weird line about smelling good.
Yeah, damn, I forgot. I blocked that out of my memory.
Yeah, there was even a moment where I thought I heard it because there's a bit where when Superman first talks when they get to the farm, he says, my mother loved it here. I loved it here. Or this was home. He says this was home. That's what he says.
Yeah.
And Lois goes, "You spoke." And he goes, "Did I not before?" And then, which is great. And I misheard it initially, and we had to go back. I misheard it as Superman saying, "This place was home." And Lois goes, "You smell." And Clark goes, "Did I not before?"
Did I not smell before?
No.
He's got nothing brought me more joy than seeing Clark and Bruce walking next to each other at the end.
I was going to bring this scene up. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's maybe my favorite scene in the... Okay, no, it's not my favorite scene in the movie, but it's my favorite Batman scene in the movie.
Yes.
It's when Bruce has bought back the Kent farm for Martha Kent. Why'd you say that name?
Why did you say that?
I'm sorry, that's my bad. But he's bought back the farm for She Who Shall Not Be Named, and he.
Are we gonna treat Martha Kent like Voldemort?
Yeah, and he's bought back the farm for Martian Manhunter, and
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
And he and Clark are standing and look, and I thought this was a Whedon scene. I thought this was entirely a Whedon scene back when the Whedon cut happened.
I was surprised at some of the scenes that remained.
Yeah, but I'm so glad it's in here and that it was an original intent because it's Bruce and Clark and they're standing with the U-Haul as they're loading everything back into the house. And there's the whole back and forth of, Clark being like, "How did you get the house back from the bank?" And Bruce going, "I bought the bank."
So good.
Awesome. It's literally one for one a scene that you'd read in a comic.
He does get I think with Batman, while we have issues with the core of the character, he does get the Bruce Wayne Batman humor with other members of the Justice League. He gets that really well.
And there's lines too that are great, like when Cyborg is like, "I heard about you. I didn't think you were real," and then Batman goes, "I'm real when it's useful."
That might be my favorite Batman line joke in a movie.
Yeah, that's awesome. Though, I mean, when you think about it, it's like the literal world computer doesn't think that the guy who brands all of his enemies is real.
Right, a little silly, but we can overlook that.
It doesn't matter. That's something where it's a comic book thing, and you can overlook it for it being a great line. Also, I think Batman gets his ass kicked a little bit too much in this.
I think so too. Sort of the whole movie, I was like, Batman, when are you gonna start Batmaning?
Yeah, and he does in the last like in the few minutes of the fight
with his alien gun.
Yeah, he no, not the alien gun part. during the very few and far between parts where he's not firing a gun of some kind, during those like 3 minutes, he's doing some really cool stuff. Where like he grapples through and like swings and kicks someone down and then throws an explosive batarang and leaps down to another level and lands on someone. That's like that Justice League Batman, where it's like this dude is so good at this that he is somehow keeping pace with gods.
Right.
There's a bit earlier on where it takes him like 10 minutes to fight one parademon, and he's just getting like thrown through walls and onto like levels and stuff, and you're like, dude, just throw a batarang, man.
Right. Yeah.
Like he's like, go, I'll make sure that these guys follow me. Oh god.
And it feels a little contrived because we've seen Zack Snyder shoot Batman action.
Yeah.
He knows how to shoot Batman
The Arkham
action.
fight, the warehouse fight with
unbelievable.
With
I would have loved to have had a scene like that.
Yeah, I think we get one specific shot that's like that with him like flying through all these parademons.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I think use more explosive batarangs, filmmakers. Not against people. I know, Zach, stop writing.
we had a couple moments that like we have an expectation of what Zack Snyder does. So we had a couple moments where we were like, Zach, don't do it.
Yeah,
don't do it. I see what you're thinking. I see you thinking about it.
You've been so good for 3.5 hours, Zach. Don't you do it.
There was the moment with Superman and the soldiers, and he thought he was going to cut them in half.
We were positive Superman was going to incinerate some soldiers during that bit.
There was the moment at the end where we're like, I swear to God, if Lois Lane is in this fucking bed with Bruce Wayne. Oh God,
I was so afraid.
I was so scared.
There's a bit when Batman wakes up from his nightmare at the very end of the movie. We initially don't see the other side of his bed, and both of us were like, if fucking Lois is in this bed,
I'm gonna kill you. It would have ruined the entire movie.
It would have. Yeah.
Because literally, not even 10 minutes earlier, they were like, Lois Lane is the key. That is Clark's heart. Let's not mess with that. Like,
and the keeping her alive might not even be all of it. Like,
right.
And and metatextually, we've heard about how the initial plan was for Bruce and Lois to fall in love eventually and have a kid, and oh my god. Ugh.
I never read the full article about that. I saw the headline and was so like, no, that I didn't even bother to read the whole
across
thing.
The room.
So I honestly, maybe it was a misquote that someone at Screen Rant or whoever wrote that article
I've heard,
took out of context.
I've heard the extended description, and it's very in-depth to be a misquote, though it might just be completely not true, but I wouldn't put it past.
I wouldn't put it past him either, but watching this, it's hard for me to see a reality with. If you watch this movie, I feel like you get a sense that Zach has this understanding of the characters, and that understanding to me would exclude the possibility of some Batman Lois Lane relationship. I just don't see that.
There is precedent for it.
Yeah.
But I let me hit you with this.
Hit me with it.
What if the nightmare future is an alternate timeline that branches off at some point around when they revived Superman?
Okay. That's a good
Even
point.
choosing not to revive Superman or doing something differently because we get flashes of like what could happen.
Well, Cyborg
sees flashes of it.
Yeah.
And I think Lois is the key. And I think some things about how they interacted with the situation may have branched what ended up happening.
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure. It could be whatever, but they do bring up the multiverse a lot in this movie.
They do.
They bring up the multiverse several times. They bring up that Darkseid is from another universe,
which
not
I thought was
planet.
really interesting.
This is actually a thing from the comics. Do you know about this?
No, I don't know about this.
Darkseid is actually, and look, the comics don't actually stick to this. They kind of forget about it a lot. But Darkseid is supposed to be the same in every universe. Every
It's
universe
kind of like
is,
a Nexus being.
Yes,
Yeah.
he exists. He and Apocalypse and New Genesis exist outside of the multiverse and are always the same.
Okay. That's interesting then.
If you read any Elseworlds comic, though, that falls apart. But it's the intent. So I think it would be interesting if Darkseid is the same Darkseid between these universes, and this is just the version where he wins.
Yeah.
And then there's the version where he is routed, and they kind of come to a head.
Right.
Which I think would be kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah. I could see that. I just wonder. I wonder why put it in there.
I think I think the intent eventually might have been to connect these and be like, this is the moment where, and the question of like, is this going to become that future? How do we avoid it? And then maybe bringing the Superman from that future to the normal reality. There's some fun things.
Something I noticed on the future Lois note that I thought was really interesting. I think it's in the conversation with Joker.
It
basically it insinuates that if Batman had decided to sacrifice himself,
then
Lois would have lived, and none of this would have happened.
Yeah, which is interesting. Do we want to talk about the Joker, and by way of talking about the Joker, just talk about that nightmare sequence?
Yeah, well, let's talk about. I think there's a very clear end to the movie.
Okay. Yeah.
I think when Clark opens up his shirt, that's the end of the movie.
Yes.
For me.
So he's walking in Clark Kent glasses, and we're not even going to get into how exactly Clark Kent has come back.
Right.
Because
it's not worth discussing.
He had a funeral for Clark.
Right. Not worth discussing. People were at the funeral. Perry White, there's a fucking thing in the newspaper that says Clark Kent is dead.
There is a body that they look at and cry over. But
now,
okay, yeah.
For me, when he runs down the alley and he pulls open his dress shirt and you see the black Superman logo.
Strangely still wearing the black suit.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
And he's wearing the color in the Nightmare. Anyway.
My whole, though he is in the flash forward where he's cradling what's probably Lois's body. I think he's also wearing the black there, so
yeah.
Maybe he just changed to red and blue to be a bad guy.
Maybe when he got angry,
it's
kind of flipped.
The red and blue one has always been a bad guy.
For me, that's the end of the movie. Like, when I thought it was going to cut to credits when he runs towards the camera, and I was about to just like stand up and applaud.
Yeah, which is what happens in the Whedon version.
I think everything. Well, no, the last shot of the Whedon is the race between Flash and Superman.
That's a post credits, isn't it?
I don't think so.
Oh, really?
I think that's the end.
What a weird way to end the movie.
What a weird movie. Yeah. I'm probably wrong. Listener, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. You can just write all the hate in the comments.
Just assume I'm right.
Just assume I'm right.
Assume I'm right.
Don't revisit that movie.
Yeah, don't look at it.
Watch this.
We're both right. It's Chekhov. No, it's Schrodinger's Superman.
Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's Superman.
Schrodinger's Superman.
Yeah.
I think everything after that point was very clearly intended to be a post-credits sequence.
Yeah. Or it's multiple post-credits.
It's a post-credit sequence, or it is something that is like was just shot extraneously because Zack wanted to fit it into this. If this is going to be my last DC thing, let's get everything I want to do. Let's get it in.
One last ride. Let's get Batman and Joker to talk to each other.
Right.
That sort of thing.
And so I sort of immediately watched it with that in mind.
Yeah.
And I really didn't take it to be part of the story necessarily. I kind of just took it to be like, oh, well, this is where the story would have went had the rest of this franchise been allowed to finish.
Yeah. Should we talk about each one in turn?
Yeah, let's talk about the Deathstroke one first. I feel like that's the one where
we've seen that one already.
We've seen it already,
but
it's different.
A little bit worse in the Whedon version.
I'd say it's a lot worse because it's a setup for something that is just odd. I mean, it's like they are setting up the
Injustice Gang.
Because
Legion of Doom.
Yeah, the Legion of Doom. Basically, like Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor. It's hard for me to just call that Lex Luthor.
Just call him Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg is basically like, shouldn't we?
Mark Zuckerberg is basically like
right. Mark Zuckerberg says, shouldn't we have a league of our own?
Yeah.
Which makes me think he's about to pull out a Blu-ray copy of A League of Their Own.
Yeah, at least the Zack Snyder version doesn't have a name drop of A League of Our Own.
Right. obviously what it's setting up was whatever. Well, I mean, it's actually cool because I think that's what Ben Affleck's Batman movie was going to be.
Yeah, Deathstroke having a personal vendetta against Batman for
Against
some
Batman.
interesting reason. Do you think
And now Deathstroke knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne.
or at least he can get to Batman through Bruce Wayne, because it's not definitive.
Yeah.
I do think I did think the whole time that Deathstroke is gonna be like, why do you have a personal vendetta against Batman? And Deathstroke would flip up his eye patch and would have the Bat brand on it.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Which sounds like something that horrible Punisher Batman would have done
Right.
back in the day.
I do love. I mean, that's great world building to say an eye for an eye. Because now I'm thinking like, ooh,
also,
what happened?
If you want to go all in on Batman having been a bad guy basically while he was murdering people and branding them and getting them killed in prison, if you have a character who was affected by that show up to kill him, then you have to very directly deal with the fact of like, he's right. I was
wonder,
the bad guy, and even just going as far as Deathstroke is basically who Batman was.
Yeah.
While he was doing the murders and stuff.
I almost wonder if that's what Ben Affleck was doing. Really, was that exact exploration that you were talking about? I'd be really interested. We should do a video on that.
Oh yeah,
let's do a video on
a Breakers portion on what
the Ben Affleck Batman would have been
in this universe. Yeah.
We're doing that. So I think the scene is good. It's definitely better than what's in the original version. I just my issue with it in general is that it's such a this movie we've always referred to the Snyder stuff as kind of just an Elseworlds version of the characters.
Yeah, it's what if these characters had horrible tragedies happen to them at the wrong time.
Right. And this movie doesn't it's definitely still an Elseworlds, but it doesn't feel as much like an Elseworlds as the previous stuff has.
Yeah. Because it feels more true to the characters.
The Jesse Eisenberg iteration of Lex Luthor, there's just no way around. There's no way around it. It's always going to feel a little different. It's always going to feel like a completely... I understand what they're going for. I understand that they're going for it to be like this tech mogul, Mark Zuckerberg-esque kind of thing. I just don't... I think it's just kind of it's just... If it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's no reason to take Lex Luthor in this totally zany direction.
Yeah. It's also interesting because neither Lex Luthor or the Joker work for me even a little bit in this universe, including in this nightmare sequence that we'll go into.
I think it's better.
It's better, but it's not good.
It's not great. Yeah.
And I think that it was an interesting choice to make Batman a lot more established, but also have it just age-wise be clear that both Luthor and Joker are like 20 years younger than Batman, and at least a little bit younger than Superman.
I think it's odd. Luthor being younger than Bruce Wayne doesn't bother me so much. It shouldn't be 20 years.
Yeah.
I think it can be, if you said a 10-year gap, I think it would be pushing it, but it wouldn't bother me that much.
Yeah.
With the Joker, you cannot, it's got to be the same age. It's got to be the same age, or if anything, maybe the Joker is a couple of years older. But like,
right, because Joker in this nightmare sequence is like talking to him like they've been, doing this eternal dance together for 100 years, when the dude's like 25. He looks like
well, that's the thing, is Jared Leto and Ben Affleck are about the same age,
but
you would never know. It doesn't matter.
He looks young, and that's all that matters is how it looks, and he doesn't look like he's been dueling this guy for 30 years.
Right. Do you think with this scene, I know that the Joker stuff was shot back this summer.
Yeah.
Do you think most of that was shot this summer?
I think literally all of that was shot this summer.
Yeah.
I don't think any of that was from the past.
Yeah. Ben Affleck did a great job getting back to the same, at least the realm of shape and...
Yeah, and I think it's shot to kind of...
to get around that a little bit.
And I think everyone did a good job.
Yeah.
It's shot in a really cool way, I think. I liked it.
It is.
I like and I also like... Let's talk about what I like about the nightmare flashback. I really like the makeup of this group.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a
really cool crew of people.
It's a shawl wearing, like, kind of clunky Cyborg. who's clearly like he's asking how much further they're gonna have to go, and he's clearly like injured.
Yeah.
It's
injured,
future,
and like he's the one that like can't really disguise himself.
Yeah.
Like
it's Future Flash who's wearing this like helmet thing that like comes down over his face,
which he's wearing in the Batman v Superman time travel moment.
This is clearly they're heading toward the period where Flash does his going back in time to answer the question. There's Batman, obviously, in his whole nightmare get up.
Which is a great costume design.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. I actually kind of like it more than his usual costume in this movie. Because I think in this movie and in BVS, he's a little bit too wide for me.
He's a little stubby.
And I know they're doing Frank Miller, but he's,
It's funny you say that because I remember seeing Batman v Superman in theaters in 2016, and my sister coming out of it and being like, I just don't understand why he's so like stubby. He looks like a tree trunk.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what makes him feel kind of laughable in some moments when he's fighting alongside the super beings, because he looks strong, but he looks slow. And he does.
He looks slow. He looks old.
Yeah, he looks and he looks like he's like taking a little bit longer to figure things out than other people.
You know what he looks like?
What?
He looks like Frank Miller Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if that's what you're going for, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the thing about Frank Miller Batman is that he's supposed to be this brick house boxer build.
Right.
But he's...
Whenever Ben Affleck takes off the suit, he doesn't look like that.
Right, but also in the Frank Miller thing, he's in Dark Knight Returns, he's like pushing 70, and he's we're supposed to be thinking he is not supposed to be doing this right
anymore.
Now. Like when he's fighting Superman, you're not thinking, oh wow, look at how amazing he is. You're thinking he's gonna fucking die, and he dies.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. But anyway, so I think the makeup of the team is great. So it's Joker, it's Batman, it's Cyborg, it's Flash, and it's Mira, and it's Deathstroke, and that is
the implications of those people being together.
Yeah. It's so cool.
It's so cool.
It's the perfect, like, it's a classic nightmare future. We just get dropped into it, and this is who's left.
Especially for Batman and Deathstroke, because we've just seen this scene with Lex Luthor that's setting up a conflict between another conflict between Batman and Deathstroke, and so now they're together on this new adventure off in Future.
I didn't even think about that. I've got a personal vendetta against him. You don't even need to pay me to kill him. And then it cuts to the future, and Deathstroke's like, "You sure about bringing this guy along?" And he's like, "Oh, what does it look like? Old buddy."
Yeah. Also, I mean, it insinuates that there was a scene where they had to bust the Joker out of jail,
or wherever he was.
I wouldn't
be surprised.
He's got a straitjacket on that he's clearly like been cut out.
Here's my guess: Joker broke out of some form of prison, took the SWAT uniform and stuff, and then has just been wandering the wasteland, just murdering the shit out of people.
Yeah.
And then they found him eventually.
I do
or
like.
He found them.
I do like that it gives you an explanation for why Batman has the Joker card taped to his gun in Batman v Superman.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's the kind of little detail that makes me feel like this universe was it was fully thought out, and it was ready to be realized.
We do this kind of thing a lot where we write out these whole detailed treatments for, I mean, that's kind of what this podcast is about,
right? Yeah,
for like where these things could go and what these stories could be about. And it does feel that way here, where it's like there's a really busy Google Doc somewhere that's got all this stuff written out of like, and Joker gives him the card, and then like the card is on the gun, and he's shooting all, and that stuff I think was written down a long time ago, which I like. And I think that okay, so the conversation between Batman and Joker, there are things about it I like, but I think it left a bad taste in my mouth in that it's like, yeah, this is why I'm glad they're not continuing with this Batman, because there are elements of his character that are so stupid.
Yeah.
So we get an explanation for, or a little bit more conversation about how Joker killed a Robin, his adopted son.
They somehow managed to make him too flawed, I think.
Yeah, but because there's a line in this where Batman says, I promised Harley when she was dying in my arms that I would kill you slow, and I will fucking kill you. It's like, when I kill you, and I will fucking kill you.
Right.
I'd kill you slow. It's like, he's talking, if you want to write a Punisher movie, do that.
Right, yeah.
Like, you don't have to, because that's not the fun of Batman. The fun of Batman is that in the most absurdly dark situation, he's still got
He
this
still won't
stupid
kill you.
fucking rule
Right.
that he will not kill anyone.
Right.
And it will
He wouldn't
get
kill
him
Darkseid
killed.
if he had the opportunity to do it.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's what's fucking interesting about Batman. And I get unreasonably annoyed about this, and it doesn't really matter, but doesn't it though?
It does matter.
And I
Yeah.
think because I think that then we tries to have his cake and eat it too, where the Joker where the Joker, like, after he says that line, the Joker looks at him and he's like, nope. You almost had me there. And as if Batman hasn't been murdering people left
Right.
and right. Why
Right.
won't he kill the Joker?
Right.
Does he love him? That's not the point.
Yeah, it is like it's the Zach Galifianakis Lego Batman
Yeah, because
conflict.
Joker's supposed to take Batman's refusal to kill him as saying, "Oh, we're soulmates, and you fucking know that we are, and I'm going to make you kill me,
Right.
Because that will show that, like, I'm the one, that I'm
It's
like
a
the person
silly-
who's with you."
It's kind of a silly thing for the movie to write
Yeah,
because if it's trying to insinuate that, like, this is Batman just kind of bluffing and, like, sort of having a really dark joke with the Joker.
Yeah,
But we've seen him kill people.
Yeah, we've seen him flatten people with the bat truck. Like, we don't need, like, there's a bit at the end of this movie
Right.
where he is standing on top of a massive, unreasonable tank that is from The Dark Knight Returns. That's this, like, huge thing with a bat head on it that's got,
Right.
like, millions of tank missiles on it.
Right.
And it's shining a light down on two
little guys.
Two thugs who are tied up together. It's like, were these guys robbing a house and
Right.
you just happened to be in the fucking bat mech?
Yeah,
Like, how did this happen? What was the scenario?
Right. Yeah. Why was this the only? Was it because, like, the Batmobile was destroyed when you were over in Russia?
So
and,
you
like,
had to bring.
So you had to. That was the only vehicle you had available.
You had to bring the fucking Bat Gundam to take these two house.
Are you telling me you didn't have the
thieves?
You didn't have a bat motorcycle? You didn't
Yeah,
have
the
anything?
two guys from Home Alone got the fucking Mecha Godzilla treatment.
Right. Literally. Yeah.
Anyway.
So it's a little.
It looks cool, though.
It's silly. It does look cool. I would love to see it. I'd love to see it in an appropriate situation for it to be used.
They could have at least made it like some big, I don't know, some big guy or something.
Right,
Like,
you could have been. Like,
could have been two
It
guys.
could have been Bane.
Yeah.
You could have taken that over to deal with Bane.
Incidentally, I like Commissioner Gordon in this. I think J.K. Simmons is fun.
Underused. It's
Yeah, he's in there for
4-hour
a
movie.
scene.
He doesn't really. I don't know if he really serves that much of a purpose to the overall story.
Well, here's my thing about it is that I agree with you, but I think that the difference between adding in a bunch of characters to this and adding in a bunch of characters to BVS is that in BVS they all get added in, do nothing, and then die.
Right.
But in this, they get added in, they have a couple of fun lines, and then they stick around. And that feels like universe building to me, as opposed to wasting characters on a one-off.
J.K. Simmons is in BVS, right?
No,
he's not.
No, he's
Okay,
not.
so he was
This-
introduced in this movie. Okay, yeah.
yeah.
It's nice to see the character. It's also, I think, Gotham PD in this universe looks like the set is just amazing.
It's gorgeous.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's nice to get a feel of the movie does these little world building things that feel nice. And I think this is one of those where it's nice to get a little bit of a history feel for Batman.
Yeah.
Like, he's got a history with, Gotham PD, that they've got the bat signal.
Gordon can just say, "Yeah, I'll go talk to him. I'll talk to him about it tonight."
Right.
And that sort of thing.
Which is cool. It's a cool thing to hear because
Yeah.
it gives you, the sense of, things have happened in the past. But it doesn't, I don't feel like it really contributes to the overall story other than getting them from a point A to point B. And also it really just is there to get Cyborg to meet up with them.
It's true.
That's
true.
really what the scene does.
But I would say I'd rather they meet up. I'd rather he meet up with them on the roof of GCPD with Gordon than in the Batcave.
Me too.
So I'm okay with it. I think it's
because
fun.
if they had done him meeting up with them in the Batcave, we've already seen that Victor Stone can do anything.
Yeah.
That he can hack into anything. He could figure out where the Batcave was if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Why go up that tree again?
There's a really fun moment. I don't know if we've talked specifically about Wonder Woman yet. We've talked about a lot of Wonder Woman things. That theme still slaps.
Oh, it's so good.
There's also I like that the Amazons get to have the percussion of it, but not the guitar.
They don't get the guitar part.
Because they have the backbone, but not
The
Wonder
power.
Woman herself.
Yeah.
That's some nice musical storytelling.
I feel like she served pretty well in this movie.
I think she's great. I think she's always great. Like, no matter how terrible the movie is surrounding her, I think that Gal Gadot has that, or Gadot has that quality. Which one is it?
I don't know. Right. I'm not sure.
I think it's Gadot.
I think you say Gadot, I'll say Gadot, and we'll figure it out.
And you say goodbye.
And I'll say Gadot.
But no, I think she's always great. Most of the movies she's been in have been bad, but I think that in general, she has the Christopher Reeve quality of being perfect person for this character.
I look at her. I would look at her in other movies now, and I would still see Wonder Woman, which is maybe unfortunate to some extent.
Yeah,
but she does embody the character better than anyone I can imagine.
I hope that the Christopher Reeve thing doesn't happen to her.
Yeah,
where people can only see her as Wonder Woman, and her career gets stunted because of it.
I don't necessarily think that will happen. I think we live in a different world.
Yeah,
to back then,
because everybody's a superhero now.
Everybody's a superhero right now. Wonder Woman for me doesn't feel like she has a big character arc in this movie, but I think it might even be a good thing that she doesn't. Because she can kind of exist as like a rock for the rest of everyone to sort of come back to.
I think that's really helpful, actually, because we are introducing, and I mean, going back in time to when none of these guys had solo movies. Well, I guess just Aquaman has one now.
Right.
But we are introducing 3 entirely new characters in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so having at least one character who we don't have to get the backstory for.
And man, does it do a really good job of introducing them and giving them all a lot of playtime. Yeah.
And I mean, there is a bit of Flash telling us that his father's been falsely imprisoned for the murder of his mother, which is a little intense for just verbal exposition.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a big sentence, a lot of words in his mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. And even the way he says, he's like, I don't know why I'm interested in criminology. Maybe because my father has been wrongly accused of the murder of my mother when I was a child and is still in prison. Maybe that's why.
Ezra Miller still brings so much of his Ezra Miller energy to the character.
Big Ezra Miller energy.
BEME.
Wait. BEME. There we go. Got it. Body mass index.
Beam.
But I think there is a great little one. I think Alfred's great in this.
He is. And the stuff with the tea.
Yeah, he and Wonder Woman have a delightful scene that I would never have in a million years thought would be in a Zack Snyder superhero movie. And it's part of why I admit that I was wrong to an extent about him, is that he does this scene, and it's Chris Terrio too, but it's mainly. But
yeah.
But it's a Wonder Woman and Alfred scene where they're just working on 2 different things in the cave, and it's Wonder Woman going to get the kettle. And Alfred oh no, please let me. And Wonder Woman's like, no, I can do it. And then Alfred's like, all right. And then Wonder Woman starts making the tea, and he keeps being like, you want to put the water first.
I just love that he's like a micromanager about tea.
Yeah. And she, does it, and then are you sure you don't want it? And he's like, no, of course not. But you're going to have to let that matter. and then Wonder Woman goes over to see what Alfred's working on. And it's these gauntlets that absorb energy and then redirect it. And Wonder Woman is like, really? And he's like, yes, it was Master Bruce's idea. And she's like, right. Well, you might want to start working on a lasso then. In black, of course. And I love that. I love that she sees that Bruce is aping her designs and stuff.
Anyone other than Bruce having banter with Alfred having banter with anyone is always gold.
Yeah, literally, and we get a little bit of him interacting with Flash, which is always something I like.
Mm-hmm.
In things whenever Flash gets to interact with Alfred, where he as they're all coming in, a bunch of them just kind of ignore Alfred, but then Flash is like, hey,
just
waves,
a really aggressive
and Alfred
wave,
kind of also does a wave in response.
Right.
That I like. There's a bit in the Justice League cartoon, which is my gold standard for Justice League stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When Flash first goes to the Batcave. Where he goes into the cave and he looks over at the giant dinosaur, and he's like, "That's a giant dinosaur." And then Alfred goes, and I thought Batman was the detective. Like, it's fun. I think I think Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman serves as a great rock in this. I think it's awesome that she does the best job of taking on Steppenwolf alone. I also like her versus
Superman.
Well, before Superman. Yeah. Superman's on a different. But I also like that when they're all trying to fight Superman, they're all getting batted around like nothing. And Wonder Woman holds him for a second. She's able to like take a headbutt and then like headbutt him back, and then he's like, ugh. And then he does the super headbutt, the up Y headbutt.
Yes, yeah. The one where you have to charge up the attack for a moment.
you have to use the D-pad.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
She has probably, in terms of imagery and the way it makes the world feel, she has one of my favorite scenes in the movie, which was her going down under the temple in Greece, and you see these ancient Greek murals of, I guess Darkseid calls it the Defiance, but you see this ancient Greek mural of Darkseid, and I just think that is just so cool.
It's such a great way to introduce him.
Right, yeah. Because it makes him this eternal, like, evil, I am inevitable, like, makes it feel like that.
And Ralph the Arrow is really great in that scene.
Yeah, Ralphie was really good.
Yeah,
Ralphie,
when he just kind of has that moment of being like, hey, I'm stuck in the wall still.
I'll be still in the wall. It's really no rush at all. It's no rush, but don't forget me, please.
Yeah, and then he does the whole song, the musical number about being stuck in the wall, and all of his friends who are also in the wall with him.
Right.
And all the arrows are dancing in a circle. It's pretty.
That's in the director's cut of the director's cut.
Yeah. You actually
have
to access that through Tom and Jerry.
You have to watch Tom and Jerry.
You have to watch Tom and Jerry, and then you have to watch The Croods 2, and then you make it back around.
I didn't realize that's what we did to get there.
It is, yeah. No, I did it myself.
Oh, cool. But, thanks for doing that for me. She does get Ralph out at the end. She has Ralph.
That's her post-credit scene. Yeah. She does get Ralph out.
She has Ralph out at the end. Thank you very much. Thank you. I was getting a little hot up in there.
Oh God. Hey, watch this again. If you got another 4 hours and 2 minutes to kill, watch this with the assumption that Ralph is a sentient Disney side character. A Mushu style character.
It'll make you feel really good.
Yeah, it did make us feel very good. There's also a bit where when they use the mother box to bring Superman back, the mother box hurtles out of the lab and crashes into a car, like through the hood. And just wrecks the car.
I thought Ralph the Arrow was going to be the funniest thing to come out of this movie.
Yeah, so then Steppenwolf like boom tubes in because they've sensed the mother box, and he appears in front of the car and he looks at it and the mother box is gone. But also that means he just looks over at a wrecked car and then has this face that really says to both of us, my car!
Right,
and then he roars and runs off.
He's so angry. He does like the classic thing that when something bad happens to you, he just throws his arms out.
He's literally just like, I had one more payment on that car.
Right, exactly. It's like he still had a payment on it. And what's also funny about it is that it's not like it's his Maserati or some shit. No, it's like a 2002 like Hyundai Sonata. Like
my sedan,
my Civic. We need to get somebody to draw Steppenwolf.
There was good mileage, and it was seats for the whole family and all of their soccer team.
Man, we need to get Irma to draw Steppenwolf and Darkseid and Desaad and Granny Goodness all riding around in a Civic together.
A little Civic, and their heads are like poking out of the sunroof.
They're all hunkered in.
Speaking of I think you're really right about introducing Darkseid through the the chamber painting or etching or that sort of thing, and then having the next step of seeing him be him appearing. They have this like radioactive block of like black stone or metal.
Really cool, like it's a really different way to do like hologram communication.
Yeah, it's like the pin dot holograms in Man of Steel and stuff, except better and cooler, I think.
Yeah.
And it's first Desaad uses it, and then Darkseid uses it, and he's just this mass of black
melting
molten stone, and fire and molten lava like falling off of him, and like his eyes are burning.
Well, so we see the Greek imagery of him. We get the flashback sequence, and then we get the communique, and then we finally see him.
The flashback where he kills a Green Lantern.
Which and at that point, I guess they refer to him as Darkseid. I guess they didn't want to talk about the whole Uxas thing.
But they do say before he ruled
right.
Apocalypse.
So like, yes, he in comic book terms he would have been Uxas rather than Darkseid. Just a little too much to contrived, too much to explain.
But they don't shut it off, which I appreciate.
I remember when the DC fandom, good in the fandom.
Yo, what's good in the fandom?
All things good happen in the fandom. I remember when that trailer came out, there were some Brian and I are some nerds.
Yeah.
Let me be clear. But there were some nerds out there that were really pissed that Darkseid was using a weapon. And I was just like, oh, guys, come on. He's still Uxas at this point in time. Come on. Easy.
Come on, guys. We all know he was still Uxas at this time.
Come on.
But I think Uxas more like sucks. Anyway, I think that the sequence where he kills the Green Lantern is great.
It is great.
Because
those the guys who are writing Green Lantern Corps still trapped in a storage closet at WB.
yeah, along with the people who are writing the Blue and Gold movie. But I think that having that Green Lantern get some more play, letting him do some more stuff, and then having Darkseid like cut off his hand and the ring flies up and Darkseid looks at it and like he goes to grab it and then gets hit with an arrow. Also, I think that's just a good visual way of showing that this only worked because all of the different groups were working together.
Right. Because
he would have gotten the ring if he hadn't gotten hit with an arrow, that sort of thing. But I like the no lanterns, no Kryptonian. Yeah. I like it a lot more in the actual context of the movie, because now we have the added context of they're going world to world, conquering so many worlds that Darkseid, as a punishment for Steppenwolf, needed him to get like 50,000 more for him before he was allowed back on Apocalypse. And I think that them mentioning like, oh, this world doesn't have any lanterns, like it's fine. Right. I think that's great because that implies that they run into lanterns on other worlds and have to deal with them. We'll come back to you later. Oh, this is a lantern one, and like that sort of thing. I think that's great.
I thought you said there weren't any lanterns here.
Yeah, I think that's great world building.
They weren't in the brochure.
They all sound the same.
They do, and
we joked about this.
Their voices are very deep. All of them are. Even
comically
Desaad.
Deep. Even Desaad, who should have a relatively higher pitch. He should be kind of a snivelly, like you said.
Like a worm tongue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It still feels that way. Yeah. There are just moments when I'm like, all right. There's just moments when I'm kind of like, all right, Zach, like, I get it. They're scary. They're scary and they're aliens. Come on.
Like, is Granny Goodness going to talk and just be like, the world will heal before me?
Probably. Probably.
I really hope that if there's any continuation of this in any way and we get a Granny Goodness, like the Granny Goodness from this, because we've never heard her speak yet. I hope that we get the, Granny loves you, like, voice, because that's the fun of that character.
Right,
but,
yeah. I mean, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Well, Ava DuVernay has been working on a New Gods movie since probably 2016.
Yeah.
I just can't see. That was not a recognizable. If you're gonna make a New Gods movie, then Granny Goodness is gonna be at the forefront of that movie. Yeah. So you're gonna cast a forefront of the movie actor, and I don't think that was like a big name, a big face.
So to be fair,
yeah,
I couldn't really see her face.
That's
maybe
true.
That was on purpose.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think anyway, I really like Darkseid in this. I think he's really cool. I think he's used exactly the right amount. I think that him getting cut in half by Mr. Sir Thulis himself.
Yep.
Absurd. But I think it still works.
It was just like I woke up today knowing I was gonna watch the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League with you.
Yeah.
I did not know that I was going to see Mr. David Thewlis, Remus Lupin, take a giant axe to Darkseid and nearly cut him in half.
The fact... Because I thought that Ares, for Wonder Woman, the original Wonder Woman movie, I thought that Ares had chosen to take the form of like a foppish, thin British man in order to infiltrate,
Right.
the British Parliament and stuff.
There's
But
that
it
one
seems-
flashback shot where you see David Thewlis in Ares garb.
And it's David Thewlis still.
Yeah.
It's just with different hair. So he's always been David Thewlis.
See, he
and
just
that
lucked out when it came to World War
He lucked
I.
out
Yeah.
about the British Parliament that just happened to... Like, it must have been real rough for him in caveman times.
Because they're
to
like, gosh,
blend in with...
this intellectual looking ass.
He's
But,
like there's like two cavemen like, "Rrr, David Thewlis?
Exactly. Right. If you went to World War I England and you like added up all of the white men
Yeah.
and then divided that by the number of white men that you added up,
Yeah.
you'd get David Thewlis.
You would get exactly David Thewlis.
You'd get Sir David Thewlis.
He's the face that when you layered every face on top of each other, you eventually
That's the
just
face.
get David Thewlis.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about one enormous plot hole that we actually had to go back 3 times and rewatch the scene because
I almost wonder if we're misunderstanding it.
we must be, right? Because,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to explain it and somebody can tell us in
Get
the comments.
angry at us if you want.
Tell us in the comments if we're wrong because I want to be wrong because it's so weird.
Right.
So there's the flashback of Darkseid attacking Earth and being routed and having to run away. Then later, and he does this thing where he slams like his axe or whatever into the ground, and it reveals this massive tapestry thing that's like a bunch of lines in the ground that are like bright red, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then Steppenwolf realizes that the anti-life equation that Darkseid has been searching for is on Earth, written into the ground because he sees that writing,
Right.
like in a vision.
Yeah.
Which Darkseid has already seen because he did it. He hit the thing and revealed
Right.
it in the past.
Right.
So then Steppenwolf goes to Desaad and goes, "I've found what we're looking for. The anti-life equation. The planet where the defiance occurred." Speaking of the all the heroes routing Darkseid.
Right.
The planet where that occurred, I've found it. It's Earth. That's where the anti-life equation is. And then Darkseid comes on and he's like, I have turned thousands of worlds to ash in search of the planet that defied me, where the anti-life equation is. And you say you found it? Bitch, you were there.
You were there.
Did you not
So-
bookmark that planet? Like
Right.
the planet where David Thewlis nearly cut you in half? You didn't bookmark you didn't write in big letters Thewlis on the star chart?
Thewlis.
He didn't-
Thewlis!
Like he didn't accidentally appear on Earth, and he didn't
Right.
flash away either. Like you know how to read a map,
Right,
right?
yeah.
How
So-
do you not know where that planet is?
My thought is, I feel like we're probably misunderstanding something.
I hope so, man.
He could also just be referring to, I've searched for the anti-life equation, and he didn't know that when he slammed his axe into the ground
that was the anti-life equation.
revealed the anti-life equation. So that it's
But
a little
it's-
questionable. I'll work with it.
It's still badly written because the implication in their back and forth is that he's found the planet where the defiance happened.
Right.
That he's
That's
found
true.
where that was.
That's how I understood the scene.
But Darkseid
which
was
makes
there.
it silly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he got hit so hard with
Right.
the axe. that
David
he got
Thewlis
memory
had to have
loss.
hit him so hard that he forgot.
He lost so much blood, so much sweet Darkseid blood that he forgot where it happened. Maybe it was traumatic and he blocked it out.
Maybe.
He's like,
It's
Darkseid's nightmares are not of Superman. They are of a foppish English gentleman with an axe.
If we're understanding it as the movie, if we are understanding it correctly, and the movie has presented this, it's conspicuous enough for me to be like, this has to be a plot point of the future.
Or somebody must have at least brought this up.
Right.
Like, there must have been some kind of
You've
thing.
like they've brought up the multiverse. Is it a different Darkseid that did that? There's something to that that's odd. Because he didn't have a scar. At least from
that's
what
true.
we saw, he didn't have a scar. Well, he did have a shirt on.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, we wouldn't have.
Do you
seen
notice the Steppenwolf he takes his helmet off when Darkseid comes up, but then
yeah,
his shirt also comes off.
Yeah, his helmet and like the titty part of his shirt.
The titty part, yeah.
flies off of him in fear as Darkseid appears.
I love that Steppenwolf is a person.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we haven't talked about Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
He's great.
Which,
I mean, he's obvious still. You know, he is who he is. But he's a character in this.
Yeah, he's a character. He's someone who's trying to get back in the good graces of his master. Which, if you're a comic reader, you know that Steppenwolf is actually Darkseid's uncle, which
is
makes
hilarious.
Makes the whole power dynamic like just really fucking weird. But
my nephew, please.
I think it's I found it to be really compelling, actually.
Yeah.
To see him. I mean, he's still Steppenwolf, and he's still evil as shit. But like watching him sort of have to grovel and be pathetic, like it invokes a level of like humanity to where
and his eyes are interesting.
His eyes, human. Like it's a good mocap performance, I think.
And it's the oldest trick in the book, but it works to have a character who's shown to be stronger than all of our heroes almost. Be totally subservient to another character.
Right.
Makes you just think, Jesus Christ, how strong is Darkseid?
Yeah.
You know.
But we also have seen
him get cut in half.
Him getting cut in half by David Thewlis.
So that is that's like distant past Darkseid.
Very
Who knows how
past.
powerful he is now?
Right. Know? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he said hundreds of thousands of worlds he's turned to dust.
I also just like in the sense of the grand timescale of this universe, and talking about how these characters are ridiculously powerful and they're supposed to be. The fact that they measure prison sentences in like 50,000 more planets, then you can come back.
And
like,
it makes me want to.
It
almost makes me wonder: is that New Gods movie? Is that a little? Is there some of? Because it's apparently some kind of betrayal.
Yeah, he betrayed Darkseid in some way. But I think they're also they're referring to the Age of Heroes, to the battle. Did Steppenwolf screw up in some way?
Was he there
around that caused that to happen? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, it doesn't seem like he was there, so maybe his absence was.
Maybe he ran. Maybe he was doing something else. He was killing someone else who was a problem, but not in the place where he was supposed to be.
But it's a cool little in universe piece of history. I would love to know more about.
Yeah. Okay. Is it time now to talk about the one character that I don't think we've gone into yet? Oh, also Lois is good in this. She's fine.
Yeah. Oh,
we're ramping up for who we're ramping up for. Yeah. But,
okay. Yeah.
But Lois is good.
Yeah. Lois is great.
I think I like that her arc is going back to getting out of the hole and being herself, being a reporter.
It's a thin arc because you don't really. None of it's stated super overtly like where she is. You know.
We do lose something in it that.
It's not. I don't say thin in that it's bad. I think she's fine.
But we do lose something there because in this version she does just happen to be. She's like saying goodbye to Superman, so she happens to be there when he comes back.
Right.
And she happens to be there to talk him down, which makes Batman look like an idiot. Right. Because he had no contingency plan for if this didn't work. He didn't even have kryptonite on him.
If he actively brought her.
Yeah, because in the Whedon cut, there's a lot of things wrong with that cut, but it is good.
He makes sure she's there, right? Yeah.
Batman's plan B, or the nuclear option, which doesn't make any sense, but his plan B is Lois.
Yeah.
Of course that would be the plan. And it's weird that he didn't have a plan.
Right.
It's one of the many things in this movie that makes him look kind of dumb. But let's talk about that character. So Lois Lane has a heart-to-heart with Ma Kent, with Martha.
Who shall not be named.
Sorry. Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry.
Kathy.
She should not be named. Where she basically talks about how she came to get Clark's stuff from the Daily Planet, and she talked to Mr. Perry, which is not weird. His name.
Yeah.
His name is Perry White. It would be Mr. White, but she talked to him and got the stuff. Now she doesn't know what to do with it, and then she went to talk to Lois, and she went to talk to Lois because Lois hasn't come into work since Superman died. And she is like, she has a kind of conversation with Lois, and she goes, "Look, there is one thing you can do for me. Be yourself. Like, go back to get out of this hole. Go back to the land of the living."
Mm-hmm.
And then Lois kind of internalizes that, and then Martha leaves. She closes the door and shapeshifts into Martian Manhunter.
Martian fucking Manhunter.
And he goes, "And the world still needs you, Lois Lane," and then becomes the general from Man of Steel, and then walks away.
So I knew the Martian Manhunter was coming.
Yeah.
This was the last scene I would have thought it would come in.
I was 100% blindsided by this, and it's perfect because it's absolutely something that Jean in his early days would do.
Right.
Where he would go, this person is hurting and she needs to get back up and she needs to hear it from this person. So I'm going to be that person and I'm going to give her the pep talk she needs.
Amazing.
Because the world needs her. Awesome.
Yeah.
I loved it. And then he comes back at the end and talks to Bruce and says, hey, I'm the Martian Manhunter and I'm around. Sorry I wasn't there for the actual fight. But,
but I guess I have a stake in this plant, so if you need me...
If you need me again...
Give me a call.
Yeah. I was really hoping there'd be a moment where... And I guess that's what differentiates this from a Marvel movie. But I was really hoping there'd be a moment where while Lois and Martha and Superman were hugging, where Lois would be like, and Martha, I did what you asked. And then Martha just goes, hmm? And then cutting away.
Oh, that would be great.
She's just like,
that would it'd be a very Marvel thing to do it.
Yeah.
But I also Harry Lennox, his voice is really great.
Yeah, it's a great Jean voice.
It's super sort of, I think a lot of people would probably like tend towards the too deep, a little maybe too intimidating for a Martian Manhunter, but going with this like soft, still very like kind of masculine feel, but just very human. I really liked it.
It reminded me of Carl Lumley in Justice League, but its own thing.
Right.
It felt like a voice you can trust.
Yeah.
And that's what a Jean voice needs to sound like.
Yes, exactly.
Also, make him greener, you cowards.
Make him greener.
He in direct sunlight, he is pretty green, but he's never in direct sunlight. So,
other than
when he's flying away.
So he is in direct sunlight at one point.
Once.
Yeah.
But more. Give me more green.
Brian,
God damn you.
There's only 2 scenes with this guy.
More green.
Well, really 1.5.
No, he's great. It saddens me that we probably won't ever get to see this version of him again.
Yeah.
But he was awesome. I loved it.
One thing about Martian Manhunter, in terms of they spent $70 million to finish this movie.
Yeah.
Martian Manhunter, the visual effects look good.
Yeah.
They don't look great.
No, but they look good enough.
They look good enough. And I was so engrossed and happy with how the movie was that I didn't really care. And I was so happy to see... We've never seen a live-action Martian Manhunter, and now we have.
The only other time we've seen that is on the Supergirl TV show.
And it's
in Smallville, too, but it's not... those are nothing.
When I say live act, I think I mean like big screen,
Though he does actually look pretty good in Supergirl, but no, he looks. It's awesome to see him talking to Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you. One thing I want to say before I forgot, just seeing Superman and Alfred talk to each other gave me the nerdiest goosebumps I have ever experienced, and it came out of nowhere for me. I was like, oh, I love this. Like just Alfred calling Superman Master Kent.
Yeah,
great. That's all you need. And another small thing that gives it the movie points with me is that Wonder Woman calls Superman Kal-El and Batman calls him Clark.
Yep. Perfect.
A really small thing, easy to get wrong, easy to not
small,
even think
but it
about.
Makes a world of difference.
Yeah, it speaks a huge amount to where those two characters are coming from.
Yeah. Let's talk about the format of it a little bit.
4:3.
Yeah. So this movie is in 4:3. So for people that don't really know movie formats or filmmaking formats, totally normal. That means the bars are on the side.
It's like old school TV format.
Yeah, it's the shape that a TV in the 90s or early 2000s would have been.
Yeah, and that no TV is now, or movie theater screen.
Right. And the reason being for that is 4:3 also happens to be the full film, the full ratio of a piece of IMAX film. And so Zack, for his full intended, this is my vision, wanted to use the entire ratio of everything he shot. So technically what you are seeing is a bigger image than what you would be seeing if it was regular widescreen.
Yeah.
My question for you, Brian, I don't know why that was so aggressive.
My question to the defendant.
Brian.
Yeah.
How did you feel about it?
Obviously, it feels smaller. Of course, it feels smaller.
Right, because TVs just aren't shaped that way.
My TV isn't. Yeah, the TV we watch this on is not shaped for. It's smaller.
Right. Yeah, it feels smaller, unfortunately.
Look, it didn't bother me. Watching it.
It took me a minute.
It takes a little bit to get used to, but at a certain point, you're just like, okay, this is just what it is. This is what it looks like. And I like it. I think this is a really pretty movie. Sometimes it gets dark to the point during like action scenes and
It can
stuff
be a little muddy.
where you're like, I don't really know what's going on here. Like the Amazons versus the Parademons, there are parts of that I love, but a lot of it is incomprehensible with just
For that,
visually.
I don't know if it's a dark thing. I think it might just be there's too many Amazonians and there's too many Parademons in one room.
And they're all wearing different shades of gray.
Yeah.
That is still a problem with Zack Snyder stuff in this universe.
Yeah.
Every villain's gray, half the heroes are gray.
Right.
That is a problem.
Yeah.
Martian Manhunter's gray when he's not in direct sunlight.
Yeah.
It's not great. But they do a pretty solid job of differentiating everyone in this movie, except in certain moments where you go, move some people out of the frame.
Right. Yeah.
Even in slow motion.
Yeah.
But overall, I love the look of this movie. I think it looks great. It's a leagues above the Joss Whedon version.
Well, and I think mostly because even if you're not a fan of Zack Snyder's style, it feels unified in terms of, it feels like, oh, this looks the way it was shot to look. You know, a lot of the problems with the way that the Whedon cut looks is because they took footage that Zack had shot for his style and then try to mold it into some other image, which was just never gonna work. You know, and the shots just weren't lit to be read like that. You know, for me, it didn't. It like I said, it took me a minute to be like, okay, to buy in and say we're watching a movie that's in 4:3, and only in very specific moments was I like, oh wait, yeah, it's still in 4:3. That's odd.
I'm still doing this, huh?
One thing about Zack that I have always loved, is that he can bring a splash page from a comic book into a film, into a frame from a film, like better than probably anybody else in the industry. Absolutely. There's like when Wonder Woman is like flipping over Steppenwolf when they're in the gutters of Gotham, like and there's flashes lightning going around her, and he's pushing the.
And speaking of that moment very specifically, I have a gauge for Zack Snyder movies of how
imagery.
Well, my gauge is of how much I'm enjoying a Zack Snyder movie is how much I'm willing to abide the Jesus imagery, the God imagery. And the moment where Flash pushes the sword back to Wonder Woman, it's clearly the creating Adam or whatever that painting is called. Loved it in this one.
I think it works. It works because you've got a solid foundation of great character work under it.
We're not only doing the God stuff. Where that's informing the two characters who we're looking at here who we actually like. That's the difference.
Could you imagine if this movie was just 4 hours of just God stuff?
I can imagine it. It's called Batman v Superman.
I when we turned it on, I thought that's what it was going to be. And I'm so glad it's not.
Cannot overstate. And I mean, I know I've brought up a lot of things that I don't like about this movie. I probably more than I intended to, because overall, this is great.
This movie slaps.
It slaps. It punches. It kicks. It does all the things.
I thought it would be
explosive batarangs.
Yeah, no, I was missing that.
I really loved this. I loved the length of it.
Me too.
I don't know that I've ever loved a movie being 4 hours long.
Right.
But yeah.
This needed to be 4 hours long.
Yeah.
And I fully enjoyed that it was 4 hours long. One more thing before we wrap up.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I this is not a Marvel comparison thing.
Yeah.
Because especially having seen this now, we just need to understand that the way that this story was intended to be told was just with a different tone, a different pacing than the Marvel movies were ever going to have.
Of course.
And I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah. Because DC stories are always going to be more cosmic. They're always going to be bigger, a little more grandiose.
And you could try to make Marvel movies out of DC characters, and I'm sure you'd end up with a couple good ones.
Yeah.
But I think this movie has some parallels to the first Avengers in a really cool way. In that, let's say Darkseid is your equivalent to Thanos, right? Thanos is not the direct villain of the first Avengers movie.
Right.
Loki is, and Loki is working on behalf of the other who is working for Thanos. Steppenwolf
it is literally Steppenwolf Desaad Darkseid.
Right, yeah. So Steppenwolf is working on behalf of Desaad, who's working on behalf of Darkseid.
Yeah.
And really the end game God damn it.
You did the
Go
thing.
fuck yourself, Nolan. The end game is very similar to what Loki's end game, and it's more epic, it's more cosmic than what Loki's just looking to sort of control humanity. Darkseid's looking to basically destroy Steppenwolf's trying to destroy the planet.
Yeah.
But it's in service of what will be a later film, a character in a later film's goal, and I think that's super interesting.
Yeah.
That while like the first Avengers movie is a contained story on its own, it is setting up the fact that we are eventually going to have an Infinity Gauntlet story, and this is setting up that we are going to have a Darkseid Mother Box anti-life equation story.
Yeah,
and it addresses a lot of that stuff more directly than the first Avengers movie addresses Infinity Stones or anything like that. But I think it's really interesting.
And also something cool for me about the stakes of this movie is that I think it's easy to approach this looking at it like a ship in a bottle and going, this doesn't really affect anything anymore. And it's kind of just its own little fun thing. And look, maybe this just worked for me because I'm a big comic book nerd. But when they bring up the fact that the anti-life equation is here on Earth, and with that we can dominate everyone in every universe, that kind of made me go, oh, okay. So if he wins, this would dominate all of the other DC universes that are around. I don't know.
Oh, that's fun.
That might just
that's
be
a really fun thought.
But I think that's cool that this would dominate the Joss Whedon universe.
The Joss Whedon universe.
And it would
the
dominate
Christopher Nolan universe.
And the Arrowverse and whatever
that's
the
really
hell
cool.
Wonder Woman 84 is doing. Like it would, and I think that's fun.
That is really fun. I like that a lot.
And that's what you need from a Justice League movie.
Yeah.
Is the most ridiculous stakes, that you can imagine.
But what a way to make Justice League into Lord of the Rings. I mean...
Yeah, literally.
Oh, and one more note. The score's great. Junkie XL, Tom Holkenborg, amazing work. Did a really brilliant job.
I absolutely agree. I love the Justice League theme in this. And the way that they bring in the Superman theme. And the theming is great in these movies. It's interesting. The building up of the characters from movie to movie in this pales in comparison to the Marvel stuff.
Right.
But these movies do a way better job of maintaining themes.
Yeah.
Musical themes movie to movie and developing them than the Marvel movies ever did. But one last thing for me. This is my last thing.
Okay. Hit me with
to bring up. So when the humans and the Amazons and the Atlanteans each get a mother box in the past and they have to hide it, the Amazons build this beautiful cage to keep it in. They entomb it in this thing. They have 1,000 Amazons ready to guard it. They have a system that will shut it down and then launch it off a cliff into the raging waters below. The Atlanteans build their own containment system. They have Atlanteans patrolling it at all times. They have this like squid thing that forms an encasement around it. Mm-hmm. And then the humans dug a hole, and not even a very deep hole, like a shallow grave.
Look, guys, we just got to be honest. We're just not as good at this whole hero thing.
They shouldn't have given the humans one, I feel.
Yeah, I think just give another one to the Amazons.
Because the humans basically went, well, I guess we'll just dig a fucking hole?
Or just give it to fucking Zeus and let him throw it into space.
Or give it to whoever the next Green Lantern is and let him take it.
Yeah. Give it to Ryan Reynolds. Can we give it to Ryan Reynolds?
Like, if I was a murderer and I was hiding
which you're
a
not.
body...
Let's be clear, you're not a murderer.
It's well documented that I'm probably not a murderer. And if I were to dig a grave for my murder victim, I would dig a deeper grave than
the grave that they dug for this mother box.
For the ancient cosmic relic that will destroy the universe.
Right. Yeah. So
and then Cyborg gets it, and what does he do but dig an even shallower grave?
Yeah.
It's just
Cyborg's. I mean, Cyborg. The whole point of Cyborg's character arc is that he's human.
Yeah.
But he should be smarter than these bumfuck old guys.
He can never be smarter than the natural human instinct to dig small hole.
That's true. That is dig small hole. That is like probably my base. Like if I was made out of an OS,
Yeah.
like my baseline OS is dig small hole.
Yeah, your DSH is online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, my final thing.
Okay.
And this, I don't think this will be too long of a conversation. If you are Warner Brothers,
I think that the subtitle for this whole podcast episode should be, I don't think this is going to be too long of a conversation. But go ahead.
I don't think this is gonna be too long of a conversation. If you're Warner Brothers,
Yeah, and I am.
do you go to Zack Snyder and you say, "Hey, look, we fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
This Snyder Cut's being received incredibly well. And it's done great numbers for HBO Max, which we'll see by the end of the weekend. Now it does.
Yeah.
Do you ask him to come and at least, maybe not even necessarily direct, but shepherd finishing this story? As a viewer, obviously, I feel like we're going to say, yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah, as viewers who don't have money on the line, who don't have other projects in development that this would torpedo, I
also don't think it has to torpedo.
Well, there is a way to do this where you go, this is because we already have like Earth 1 and Earth 2, quote unquote.
Right.
Where you've got the Batman, Matt Reeves, and you've got Ezra Miller's Flash universe,
and Michael Keaton.
which is going to end up having Michael Keaton in it.
Yeah.
And you've got like the Arrowverse and the Titans verse and all that stuff, which is like mapped out.
Right.
Like Joss Whedon, I guess we can call it that, universe is like a numbered Earth in like the Arrowverse thing. So you can do stuff that takes place in the Snyderverse and have that be separate and wrap that story up, but that will prevent you from doing a different Justice League.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't think they're leading to a new Justice League at any time in the near future.
I think you're right. It's tough. I don't know what my answer would be.
Yeah.
Because I want more.
Me too.
But I don't want it to hold anything else up.
Right.
Because I don't like the Batman of this universe. And Batman's my favorite character. So I'd rather a better one.
Right.
but I think I want elements of this to stay. It's tough. I think I just want like a Nightmare series or something. Something like I want him to get a Disney Plus style series where he gets 9 episodes and a ridiculous budget to finish this story.
Right. It's not going to be the, Justice League Part 2 and whatever, if there was any other movies.
I think you get fucking 12 hours and an absurd amount of Warner Brothers Tom and Jerry money.
And put it on HBO Max.
Yeah, put it on HBO Max. Also have a limited theatrical release because why not? Do it like episode by episode. Who cares? Right. You'll get $70 from every. Do a season pass where people can come in and pay a certain amount of money to keep coming back for the new episodes. I don't know.
Right.
I think that's the way I would approach it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want this to hold other things up, but I do think there's a lot of really cool potential here.
Yeah. I personally want to see where it would go.
Yeah.
I feel like with there being a lot of money on the line, it's hard to say until we get through this weekend.
Yeah.
And see how the overall response from just normal people that go and watch it, and how many new subscribers did they get? How many views did it get over the weekend? I think it's going to be a massive number.
I think so too. I think it's going to be bigger than anybody thinks.
I think a shit ton of people are going to watch this.
And we're going to look like idiots or prophets.
Now, here's my question is the amount of money that it costs to make this. I mean, if you include the Whedon cut, so this is a little bit of it's a bit skewed, but like,
oh god, so it's making 3 movies.
It's basically making 3 movies, so it would be a $370 million movie.
Or more. I think that's a low ball. I think it's more.
It was probably, if you include marketing, they're probably spending $475 million to do this movie. So with the understanding that these movies are incredibly expensive to make, and if the storytelling requires it to be a 4-hour and 2-minute movie, it's just hard to imagine being able to put a theatrical release out and tell the story properly. That's the problem with Batman v Superman, is it got cut down to 2.5 hours when it needed to be that's not the problem. That's one of the one of the biggest problems, is that it was a 3-hour movie that got cut down to 2.5 hours. Yeah. And this, was a 4-hour movie that Joss Whedon had to come in, Whedonize, and cut down to half of the length. Yeah. Because it was required for it to be 2 hours long.
And I do think that Disney Plus is blazing the path of how this story could get wrapped up. Yeah. It is going, you can do high profile series content with crazy movie style budgets and people will be there.
So it's a question of, are we willing to dish out the money to do either a movie or a HBO Max series? Are we gonna be able to get the viewership that we need to make it a worthwhile venture? Yeah. Are we gonna be able to get the actors back? Yeah. Is Ben Affleck gonna, want to get in shape to do it again?
Well, it's interesting because Ray Fisher has said that he's not going to work on anything for WB ever again.
It makes me so sad.
But if it's Zack Snyder, I don't know.
Yeah, if it was Zack Snyder, then I think it would be possible.
If it's Zack Snyder winning,
it's hard.
I don't know if he would.
Right, Zack Snyder has to trump Warner Brothers really in this case.
Yeah, or at least it has to feel that way.
Right. It's really sad. I think that might be the saddest part of all of this. Yeah. On a movie level.
Yeah, the saddest part is that Joss Whedon has been abusing his role.
I was going to say the saddest part is that Zack Snyder lost his daughter.
Okay, that is sadder. Yes. Yeah. There are a lot of sad parts of this. Actually,
this has ended with a really beautiful, hopeful thing where Zack Snyder got to finish his movie, got to realize his vision. I think there's some meta things about the epilogue being called a father twice over, where it's a note about the characters, it's probably a note about himself, it's also a note about the creation of this film.
Yeah, a father twice over having to make this movie twice,
which is I think is beautiful,
and losing
I think one of the more sad things on a filmmaking level is that Ray Fisher's performance, the way that this character is explored in this movie, is just unbelievable. And that the relationship between Warner Brothers and him is so screwed up that he's not comfortable, and more power to him. He's not comfortable working with Warner Brothers, and he's going to make that stance. Like, good for him. Like, you do you, and that's happy for him.
And it's a terrifying stance to take.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
it could end his career.
Yeah, he's a theater actor that this was his first film role. Was Cyborg, and so really powerful, inspiring stance for him to take. But man, I would love to see him play the role again. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's get it out of 10.
After that whole preamble,
give me a number.
It anything less than
I want a number.
Okay, out of 10, I think I would give this film, taking into account everything that it had to do, everything that it had to overcome, this is like a 7 or 8 out of 10.
I give it a 9.
Yeah, I think I'd give it an 8. I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
9 cosmic energy absorbing gauntlets out of 10.
Yeah, I'd give it. Oh, you know what? But okay, I am thinking about the Flash sequence again.
It's one of the best. Shit. It's one of the best comic book sequences I've ever seen on film.
All right, I'll give it a 9. I might regret that later, but I don't. You might. But you know what? Screw it, because this is larger than life. So too shall my score be. I guess my final wrap up here is just to say that this day started with me getting a tornado warning on my phone. Yep. And it ended with me giving Zack Snyder's Justice League a 9 out of 10. So we are not in Kansas anymore, folks. We are
not in Kansas.
And we are heading to unknown territories.
This is not how I thought this day was going to go.
All right.
Well, thank you, dear listeners, for checking this out. Please be sure to subscribe, give us a comment, send us an email. If you got any questions for us, feel free to send them our way. We'll answer.
Yeah, let us know if there's any things you want us to analyze or come up with possible future stories for. We just did one for X-Men about where that could go.
Yep. We're going to do some for this DC universe. That'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. And tell us what you thought of Zack Snyder's Justice League. We'd love to know.
Yeah, so, I genuinely would.
I genuinely want to see
know if we're in a vacuum here. I want to know what other people think.
Yeah. All right. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. And happy justicing.